This week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayakhel, and very often Vayakhel and the next Parsha, which is Pekudei, are connected. Now, Parshat Vayakhel is essentially a repetition of the previous Parshiyot, the previous Parshas that speak about the building of the Mishkan. And they were discussed in Parshas Terumah, and then later on Parshiyot Tetzaveh, and then they were repeated again in this Parsha and in the next Parsha. And on that, the commentaries basically ask the question, what's the purpose of the repetition? And the answer is that in Parshas Terumah and Tetzaveh, there was a command. And in Parshas Vayakhel Pekudei is when it was actually executed, when that building actually happened, which actually begs for another deeper question. We know that the Torah doesn't mince with words. The Torah doesn't just use a lot of words. The Torah is exact. And so why couldn't it say that this is both a commandment and then the execution, which would happen after? And the answer is that we've got a Mishkan, which is the Tabernacle, which is the temple, found on our spiritual, on our higher selves. We know that that in Parshas Terumah it says, "V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham." Make for me a sanctuary, and I will rest within them. The Rabbeinu Bechai and many of the other greats say that it should have said betocho, in it, and rather it says v'shachanti betocham. I will dwell within them. And what does it mean that I will dwell within them? Because the ultimate purpose of the Mishkan is not just the dwelling within a sanctuary, the Mishkan, which was made out of wood and gold and silver and 15 items that were commanded. Rather, it should be that the dwelling should be within us, within our hearts. And so therefore, we've got the Parsha, which is discussing in Parshas Terumah and Tetzaveh the godly, the potential, we could say the spiritual aspect of the Mishkan, which we also have within us. We have our spiritual potential that's there. But then it's not enough, because it's not just about potential. This world, we came down into this world to actualize our potential and to actualize God's desire and what he desires as actualizing our potential and to reveal his greatness in the world. And that is what is discussed in Parshat Vayakhel and Pekudei. So once again, Vayakhel and Pekudei are usually Parshiyot that are read together. And when they are separated, there's a meaning to them. And when they're together, there's a meaning to them. So what is the meaning of Vayakhel? Literally, Vayakhel comes from the word kihila, kahal. In Hebrew means a congregation. And it refers to the congregation of the masses, of the many, of the multitude, of bringing in the many. And it has to do with a collective energy. And the word Pekudei comes from the word lifkod, means to count. And it talks about the individual. So we've got these two dynamics, we've got these two aspects, the collective energy, and then we've got the individual energy. And both are part and parcel of what the world is and what a community is. Because a community is a collection of many people, but it's not just many people without any faces, without any identities, without any personalities, without strengths. It's people that have their individuality, and their individuality is what impacts the greater whole. And so Vayakhel, when Vayakhel and Pekudei are together, it means that we've got this connection, this symbiotic connection between the collective energy and the individual energy that is found within us. And when they're separated, it means that we need to sort of examine the greatness of each of them. So in this week's Parsha, we examine the collective energy, the strength in the collective. There is something very, very powerful in being in the collective. So there's a joke, it's a story about a person that was taking a standardized test, and he's there with 100 other people in the room, and 10 minutes comes up. The proctor says 10 minutes, and he's still like he's got a lot to complete, and it gets to 5 minutes and 2 minutes, and then time is up, and she's like, okay, I can't take your paper anymore. So this student says, do you know who I am? And she says, sir, I don't care who you are. Time is up. That's it. I cannot take your test. He's like, do you know who I am? She's like, I don't know who you are, and I don't care who you are. You don't know who I am? No. And he just like picks up the papers and he sticks it in there and he runs out. And that is a metaphor also for us, because we are a part of a collective. And very often we don't realize that strength. We don't realize what it means to be a part of a collective, to be a part of a greater mass. And I think that's something that's been really felt over here in Israel since October 7th. The idea of the togetherness, the unity, the oneness, that's so essential. And it's a part and parcel of our survival and our success over here in Israel and as the Jewish people and in the world, and really showing the rest of the world how important it is for us to identify with this collective energy that's there. So the Torah tells us that there were two great individuals that were involved in building the tabernacle. So it was instructed by Moses, and in Parshiyot Terumah and Tetzaveh, Moshe talks about the building of the vessels, and then he goes into the building of the Mishkan, of all the wood that was built around the Mishkan, and then the all the curtains that went around the Mishkan, etc. In this parsha, it talks about first the energy of Shabbat, and then it goes into the surrounding layers, curtains, etc., and tapestries, and then it goes into the actual wood, and then it goes into the vessels. So it's an opposite type of a command, and it starts off with the command of the Shabbat. So it says 6 days te'aseh melacha, that work shall be done. Not work should be done, but work shall be done on its own. It's as if the work is done on its own. And we understand that the energy of Shabbat is uplifting, and it is unifying the energy of the 6 days of the week. While within the 6 days of the week, we are involved in every day. We have our tasks, we have our job, we have our goals, we have our focus that we have. And then on Shabbat, we just become taken by this collective energy that unifies the entire week, which is the seventh day of Shabbat, which corresponds Kabbalistically to the sphere of Malchut, of kingship, where it, just like in the sphere of Malchut, it unifies all of the opposite, which is what a king does. A king is able to unify all parts of the kingdom. So too Shabbat. Shabbat is called the Shabbat queen, the Shabbat, right? Malkita, that brings together all of these components. So now when these components are brought together, so then we there's an above to below type of an energy, that we start off with this collective oneness that's found within the Shabbat, and then we go to the surrounding tapestries of the Mishkan, which is referring to the surrounding light of creation, and then it works towards the individual. It goes into the wood, and then it goes into the vessels, the detail. And in the construction, so while Moshe was involved with giving over this instruction in Parshat Terumah and Tetzaveh, Moshe commissions his great nephew, who is the grandson of great grandson of Miriam, and the grandson of Hur, and his name was Betzalel ben Ori ben Hur, Lemate Yehuda, from the tribe of Yehuda. And it says that he was only 12 years old or 13 years old. He was very, very, very young. And yet he was called Betzalel in the shadow of God. He was given this deep intuition into how the Mishkan should look. And the reason for that is because he had this deep intuition within himself. And he was actually able to look into his own shadow. Betzalel, the shadow of God. He was able to look into the shadow of humanity, of mankind, and to see how the Mishkan is this incredible infrastructure that's able to ground us in this world. But that wasn't the only person involved. The next person who was commissioned together with Betzalel by Moshe was his name was Oholiav ben Achisamach lemate Dan. He was from the tribe of Dan. Oholiav literally means the tent of my father, right? The tent of my father. And he was the son of Achisamach, that my brother is my supporter, right? Again, connecting to that collective energy, to the tribe of Dan, to the tribe of Dan. So the Rashi says that what's the reason for these two engineers to come together? Why was it that they came from the tribe of Judah and they came from the tribe of Dan? It could have been both from the tribe of Judah. So it says that the Mishkan is a public and a collective space for all of the tribes, for all 12 tribes. That means that had Betzalel been instructed to construct the Mishkan on his own, then it would have been perhaps viewed by the other tribes that, hey, there's like a little bit of nepotism over here. There's a tribe of Judah, who's the great grandson of Miriam, who's so holy and special. But like, what about the rest of us? We don't have a connection to the Mishkan the way the tribe of Judah does, right? Or the tribe of Levi does, right? What about the lower tribes? And it says that the tribe of Dan is the last tribe that would walk in the procession in the desert. And they're called one of the lowliest tribes, the tribe of Dan. And obviously there were great people that came from Dan, such as Shimshon, who was one of the greatest shoftim leaders in Jewish history, to prove the point that God desires all parts of the people and all parts of the community and all of the tribes. And therefore, he instructed Moshe to appoint Oholiav ben Achisamach from the tribe of Dan together with his great nephew, with Betzalel, that both of them should come together. The tribe of Judah and the tribe of Dan, perhaps the most illustrious tribe and the lowliest tribe, that they get together because what are they getting together for? It's a collective purpose. So there's a collective energy and collective good that is unfolding, that could only happen when we bring everyone together, when we bring those that are different than us together into the equation, because they're going to see the world in a different way. They're going to understand things in a different way. So although Betzalel was able to look into the depth of humanity, and he saw the greatest, he had the greatest revelations. Nevertheless, there's someone else that sees it in a different way, that's able to bring out a deeper depth, a depth that even Betzalel couldn't reach. That is there, that each and every one of us brings to the collective. So when we look at ourselves as Vayakhel, coming into the collective space that we are all in, in terms of the Jewish people, in terms of being one, in terms of bringing unity in the world, to realize that all nations and all people and all individuals have their strengths. It's not about being like someone else or being like a different tribe. It's being your tribe and being your strength and bringing your strength, recognizing that your strength is the beauty, is the whole tapestry, is the whole, rainbow of colors that really the people have, that different people have, and bringing that into the equation and recognizing that we are all part of this collective Mishkan, that we are all doing this work together to bring Hashem into the world. And the more that we recognize that it is our job to bring Hashem into the world, not just I'm on my own and I'm doing it my way and that's it, but to recognize that I'm doing it in the best way that I can, but then to be open and give space to the other person's expression and the other person's desire to also do so, to also bring Hashem into the world. And with that, we congregate together, Vayakhel, and by doing that, we bring Hashem into this world. We bring Hashem into our lives by recognizing that there is this vastness that goes beyond our perception, our way of seeing the world. So, wishing you a beautiful Shabbat and many blessings, and may we bring unity and be able to experience and to feel this unity more and more, and to be able to live in a state of perpetual unity. Shabbat Shalom.